Hello and welcome to the Home Assistant Podcast. My name's Phil. Joining me as usual, I've got Rohan. How you doing, mate?
Hey, good. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. As usual, this podcast is sponsored by Home Assistant Cloud by Nabucasa. For a small monthly fee, you'll unlock powerful features like secure, effortless access to your system from anywhere, your choice of voice assistants, offsite backups, and more, all configurable in the UI with no YAML needed. It also supports the development of Home Assistant, ESP Home, and other Open Home Foundation projects. Click the link in the description to learn more. We'd also like to give a shout out to our Patreon members, including our executive producers, Benny and Rob. You can help support the show and get early access to episodes, all in an ad-free feed. To support the show, check out homeassistant.fm and click Patreon in the menu. Now, a couple of weeks ago, Mark Shelby on Twitter asked us to put a call out for empty nesters to share some of their stories, and our guest today answered that call. So we're heading north, way north, to the Lockyer Valley in Queensland, which is over 1,300 kilometres north of me here in Melbourne. Our guest is Scott. He's a licensed Sparky with a deep background in IT, who's been bouncing between code and conduit for years, including stints in lift mechanics, industrial automation, and tinkering with smart homes since the X10 days, where I'm sure a few of us all started. These days, he's working full-time, volunteering, maintaining acreage, and somehow still finding time to build an impressively automated shed. 300 square meters of pure smart wiring mayhem with 1.2 kilometers or 3/4 miles of cabling and enough Shelly devices to make your breaker box blush. He's all in on power monitoring, believes keeping things simple so it's usable for the whole family, and he's got thoughts from the state of Zigbee to the YouTube rabbit holes we'll all fall into. Whether it's chickens, smoke sensors, or pinball machines, he's working on it, and we're excited to have him here today. Scott, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me, gentlemen.
As that little intro for you, I wouldn't really, we were conversing on Messenger, and you were saying, you're a Sparky, you're in Australia. It's like, okay, already you've told me, right? I need to get you, and you've got an IT background, so you've got like the perfect, intersection of everything that I think is useful in home automation. What sort of started your interest in home automation back in those? Was it X10 was where you started, I guess?
X10.
Ooh, lovely.
Wow.
Still got it all.
Still got it.
Home Seer and X10, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I'd actually bodged some, it was literally not automation so much, but, switches to switch things on and off to make my house simpler because I was an electrician, so I got carried away. Then went right down the rabbit hole of X10, and I've got literally a large carton full of vintage X10 if anyone wants some. Happy to send it to you. Then gradually through my career, Sparky initially, and then lift mechanic, and obviously lifts are a little bit more sophisticated and involve programmable logic controllers. So I then ended up trying to automate my home with a PLC, which was probably a particularly unwise move and overkill. And I've not recovered from that, and I'm still tinkering now, obviously, with Home Assistant and a lot of variety of equipment, a lot of Shelly, a lot of very dodgy homemade things like that creation there, which is, a bodge job of sensors and PoE modules and other bits and bobs and D1 minis. So I'm still very active in building out my smart home and my smart shed.
Yeah, very cool.
That's awesome. So, I mean, with all of this stuff, I mean, you showed us your kind of hodgepodge of cables, as you called it. Clearly you're a bit of a tinkerer and do all that stuff, and I'm sure your electrical background helps there too, and your PLC background as well. So, I mean, how much PLC stuff do you still put into that kind of stuff that you're because you kind of sounded like you're like, okay, maybe that wasn't the best idea, but at the same time, you still have a lot of it and whatnot. Do you still do DIY PLC kind of deals, or is it strictly ESP and all those kind of things now?
I'm pretty much sticking to commercial quality equipment these days, because of the ease of use and ease of maintenance, and because obviously the community is amazingly supportive of those There's some fabulous manufacturers. I think, unfortunately, not many in Australia, which is a bit of a shame.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some very clever things out in the wild now that you can just basically snaffle off Amazon if you wanted to, or some other way of purchasing them online. I think the PLCs it's really, it's a sledgehammer approach. It's a little bit overcooked, to be honest. Mind you, they're really cheap now. They used to be thousands of dollars. You can buy them for a couple $100 now. But no, I'm really trying to stick to off-the-shelf equipment just because of the ease of maintenance, because obviously I'm the only one in the home that can maintain the technology. So when it fails, I'm going for quick swap, easy to replace things and keep everything running.
Is that a reason why you're not using X10 anymore? Like you said, you've got a whole box of X10 stuff. One of the cool things I think home system community are doing is like bringing back old technology that would be considered e-waste. Right now, X10 obviously a very old technology, but I guess with home system there is the ability to revive that. Have you considered reviving it?
I have, sadly. It's just because I'm tragic. Because I've got such a large shed and I've got so much stuff, I'm actually thinking of building like a test rig, which will be a wall, some switches, some lights, and just to put all of that really ancient technology back into play for no particularly good reason, apart from the fact that I can do it, tinker with it. But I've got enough to probably automate half the home with X10 should I want to. One of the issues I'll have, though, is I've got 3-phase power, which introduces some niggles with X10 because it really needs to be on the same phase. But that's fine. I know a good Sparky who can fix it for me, so
that's it.
It's a zero cost prospect for me. I think it's really important that we don't throw this stuff away. And I've literally got one of the biggest stashes of technology from the 90s through to now is sitting in my mezzanine because I just can't bear to throw it away. So just repurpose it, try and keep things going as long as possible. I think it's pretty critical, especially because it's such a throwaway society now. And I think that's probably one of my only concerns with our hobby is that the commodity devices, especially things like the Sonoffs and so forth that are so cheap now. I wonder how long are they going to last, and how soon are they going to go into e-waste? I think fairly rapidly.
That's right.
Well, I think it's two-phased, right? One is to some extent you get what you pay for, right? And I mean I'm just as guilty. I've got a ton of devices, stuff like that are like microcontroller based, whatever. A few bucks here, a few bucks there, and it's like, how long will that actually last, right? And the other side of it too is obviously it's like, hey, great, I don't need this thing anymore. Let's just chuck it. It was a couple of bucks, whereas it's a lot. You think twice before when it's $300-400 or $1,000 or something like that, right? And it's very different mindset.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can go crazy. So I can go and buy a temperature and humidity sensor for a handful of dollars, as you say, or I could go and buy a commercial grade one that'll be $250 US. It effectively does exactly the same thing, but my expectation would be that it would last a lifetime. And I've even got some old server monitoring sensors that are PoE that are literally 25 years old that still work. So it's about a price point, and I think, as I said, I'm an empty nester. My son turned 40 this year, so it's like it's just my wife and I now. I'm tending to not go crazy with automation or with equipment, but to be a bit more picky about buying quality, and to make sure that I do it once and get it spot on, so I know it's a set and forget to some extent. And that's part of the reason I've started tinkering with Zigbee and a few of the other technologies, because there's some really good stuff that's coming out now that's quite robust. And a lot of it, if you're willing to crack it open, it can be as simple as adding a whole bunch of solder to some traces on a board, and it gives you another couple of amps worth of robustness with your relays, or you can swap the relays out to better ones. really upgrade the stuff to make it a little bit more sort of commercial quality and substantial.
Yeah.
So you started with X10 and so that's obviously dating it a little bit there. So I'm guessing kids were home at that time when you sort of were dabbling into this. Were you automating your home to a level considered today as a smart home? Would you say you've got automations in place to help out around the house, or not so much?
People would have laughed. The level of automation was not sophisticated. I think the most exciting thing I did was write a script to scrape the weather from the internet, which was in its early days, and I could press a button and get a précis of the weather for the day. And I thought that was high technology. I thought I was pretty special. But it was mainly just turning things on and off. There was very little Boolean logic behind it. There was no if this then that type thinking. It was just press that button and then 4 different lights would turn on at once, or you could dim them. Very low tech compared to the chaos that I've currently got.
Yeah, being an electrician yourself, and the rules in Australia around being able to do certain things, that I feel like you kind of lend yourself a little bit of an advantage there too, right? Because you don't need to call somebody to do a lot of these things. You don't need to do you don't need to have spend thousands of dollars to say, hey, come rewire this thing for me, like what you were talking about even doing those things with the relays and stuff like that. Because from what Phil tells me, it's pretty strict down there for making sure you have an electrician to do anything.
It is. It's heavily regulated, and I believe rightly so, although I'm slightly biased. And I'm actually pleasantly surprised. So I've got acquaintances and friends in my little country area who are Sparkies and electrical contractors, and there's half a dozen of them that are all over it with Home Assistant and Shelly and all the technology that's out there. So it's a bit of a thing at the moment amongst Australian electricians, I think, which is great for the consumer, because one of the things I always see on the internet, because I lurk on all the various groups, is people saying, oh, I got my electrician in and he just looked at me blankly and has no idea what to do with my smart device or how to implement it. Whereas I'm surprisingly pleased to say that there are a lot of very switched on electricians who, at least in this area of Queensland, who are doing some cool automation stuff. I even gave a friend of mine a Shelly, a HA Green as a Prezi, and sent him down the rabbit hole. I don't think his wife will ever talk to me again, but it's like, here you go, have one of these. I'll talk to you in 6 months.
There goes your retirement savings. So
we're pretty spot on, and I think it's important, especially domestic electrical people, and having lived in the UK and and worked overseas, whatnot, you can basically do whatever you want. It is really quite straightforward when it's working well. Like wiring a house isn't particularly difficult. I could teach you to do it in a week. It's when something isn't right that's where the real magic of the trade comes in. So I've dealt with houses that were wired in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, and the standards changed over time. And to be able to retrospectively troubleshoot those installations is a real skill, and it's a gift given to you by your tradesperson as you're being trained. There's new stuff's easy. Troubleshooting and finding weird problems, not so easy. So I think it's important that we keep those trades licensed. And
we have not pretend voltages. We've got
doesn't tickle. I can assure you, I've copped red to blue phase hand to hand, and it knocked me out cold, and I was very lucky not to be fried. So it's not fun. And people don't realize how easily a simple thing like a loose connection, and it's literally just a screw that isn't tightened up enough, will happily burn your house down. It's as simple as that. I've seen it many, many, many times. And so that's why I get a little concerned and frightened by some of the DIY stuff I see on the internet.
Yeah,
people with Wacos and 400 different switch wires. They're going, this doesn't work. You're
Right.
like, well, I'm not surprised. It's a dead short from active to neutral. You're going to blow yourself up, So it's hopefully,
Yeah.
I think that's where the industry has got a lot to offer. And you look at some of the things that you've got discussed in previous podcasts, like the plug-in batteries that you can get in Europe now, where you literally plug it into an outlet and it's a standalone device. Yep. So I think more appliance-like things would be great to get people started in home automation. So you're getting a box, and I know the big box stores sell a lot of them, but that's a really good entry-level thing. Is just go and buy some power monitoring GPO units and get yourself started, and not tinkering with your wiring.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything outside of the wall, I think is fair game. As long as not cutting wires or anything, you should be okay. So you started with X10, you had your, then obviously families moved away, now you're an empty nester. How did you, was there a progression to Home Assistant? Did you move from Home Seer to something else, or was it straight from Home Seer straight onto Home Assistant? Like, how did your journey come along?
It's funny you should say that, because I was thinking about it as I was preparing myself to talk to you guys. And I suspect that I was cottoned onto Home Assistant thanks to Hackaday. I'm a frequent visitor of various geeky websites, and that was one of them. And I thought, wow, that sounds really cool. And we're talking quite a long time ago. It was a very rudimentary. This is pre-Lovelace. It was pretty basic.
Yeah, but the old States machine where you had to use the groups to put out your UI and everything. Yeah,
it was great, and it's FOSS, free open source. It's straight away. I'm in love. I need some of that. Thank you. And I had a very sad and quite ancient new unit of computing floating around, so I plonked it on there. And since then, I've spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours and lots of money fiddling with it, and it the way. So I do subscribe, so I'm happy to pay a few dollaros to keep the wheels moving, because I think what the team is doing is just incredible. The constant, like the releases of it, always there's something always really cool in every release. A lot of it I don't use because I'm a bit of crusty old so-and-so, so I don't use AI until I can wash my dishes or do my laundry. Then I'm very keen for AI. I don't tend to use voice very much. I do use the announcements. Announcements are great. So I'll get my various devices that can talk to me to make announcements based on triggers coming out of Home Assistant. But it's I think it's just an amazing ecosystem, and I keep finding new and exciting ways of attaching things that probably should never be automated into it just because you can. Basically.
Yeah. Why not?
It's keeps me off the streets, as they say.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, at some point, maybe you will care to do something interesting with it, right? And it's, but do you find that, is there a little bit of upkeep that's involved in that, where it's like, hey, I've added this stuff to Home Assistant. Now it's like, oh, something broke, but you don't really use it. So do I care to update it? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
There is upkeep. I think you've got to feed and water Home Assistant. I think it's really important. And I know a lot of people, concerned, so obviously with the deprecation recently, that they'll probably just freeze their version and not move on based on the platform that they're using. I'm easy. I'm running it in a Docker on my NAS, so it's bulletproof. But yeah, just this morning, my vacuum cleaner decided that it no longer wanted to talk to Home Assistant. So, got to deal with that. Spent 15 minutes. One of the entities had gone pear-shaped. Luckily, love Ghost. Thank you, Frank.
Yes.
Just popped up and went, hey, this is Gonski, and fixed that. But I think it's important and I've got much better hygiene now than I probably did, say, 12 months ago, where I just go, hey, there's an update, bang, just do it. Now I read the release notes. I check the breaking changes first, just to make sure that some obscure thing that I've implemented isn't going to get broken. And I think I've been really lucky. It's been stress-free. I've had HA fall over a couple of times, after updates and had to restore backups, but that's just computing. It's just the way code works. And
Sure.
It's but I think, and I'm always looking for new opportunities for ridiculous things. And one of my favorite automations is we obviously have to put out our wheelie bins for the rubbish collection. And we have recycling and we have rubbish or garbage, alternating weeks. So on a popular social media marketplace site, managed to buy myself a full-size traffic light with the arrows. It was huge. This thing it's like 4'6" tall.
Yeah,
it weighs a ton. It's now completely automated. So when I pull my car into the driveway, it's anticipated me coming home, and it'll tell me with the traffic lights which bins have got to go out.
Oh,
Amazing.
So
wow.
it lights up the corresponding car. I've got 2 bins to go out today, red and yellow. Like, well, got to take them out. So I'm constantly trying to find ridiculous ways to use things like the traffic light.
Hilarious.
They've just introduced a purple bin down here in Victoria, so I hope they don't do that for you in Queensland. Because
What's a purple bin?
The purple one is glass. So they're removing glass from the yellow
interesting.
recycling bin.
From the stream. Okay, that's interesting.
We just have blue in it, where it's like there's one blue bin for paper and one blue bin for everything else, like plastic, glass, metal, all that stuff. And but I haven't heard of a purple one. And then we have a green for compost and just garbage bags.
They've
garbage,
just
I guess,
done the green bin in the city next to us, which is about an hour's drive away, and they've just rolled out composting bins to the entire place, and so it's obviously a thing that's happening.
Yeah, it's coming.
Oh yeah.
But we're in the boonies here. I'm lucky we've got a bin, to be honest. I should just be thankful.
That's it.
Beats digging up a hole and creating a fire or whatever, right? Just burning it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a little more environmentally safe.
Because we live on a rural. We've got 5 acres of effectively bush, what we call bush. It's dry sclerophyll forest is what it's called. So we have a healthy population of kangaroos that live on the property, wallabies, koalas, lots of different possums and gliders and things. So I'm fairly pedantic about making sure that we don't ruin the place with waste. So it's
100%
pretty keen. I'm also, and sadly, it's totally off topic, but I'm also a permaculture designer because I got bored and went and did the course one year. So I'm trying to build out our property with automated permaculture principles, which is impossible. So yeah.
Can you explain a bit more? Like, what are some of those principles that you'd have to do?
I'm focusing a lot on water. So obviously, water is a real issue here in Australia, and in Queensland, the wintertime is the dry time now, so everything is dying. And literally in the space of 2 weeks, the grass around the property has gone brown and just keeled over. So I'm now trying to automate the movement of water between various tanks. I've got nearly 100,000 litres of storage on my shed. I've got 30-odd thousand on the house, and then 3,000 halfway up the hill, if that makes sense. So I'm trying to come up with a clever way of monitoring those tank levels, and I'm yet to succeed. I'm still fiddling around with ultrasonic sensors to try and balance the water depending on the season. So during fire season, I want water near the house for the fire sprinklers, and I want it up the hill so that I can gravity feed. During winter, I'm not so fussed about the house tanks, but we have the issue that if in summertime we get very large storms. It's basically it's hard to describe. You'll get 100 millimeters of rain in 40 minutes.
Yep.
Wow.
So everything floods and all the tanks overflow. So in that period of the year, I actually want to move the water away from the house and put it in the tanks somewhere else, and or pump it into the dam, because I know if I'm going to get 100 millimeters of rain, then I'm going to fill them back up again. But I don't want that overland flow across the property because it causes so much erosion and damage. So trying to come up with this clever automation of, okay, where is the water? What's the weather doing? And how do I shift it to be where I want it to be? So it's not working.
Yeah, well,
Like
it sounds
that's-
pretty challenging, right? Like you're literally moving, water around and pumping things here and going which way up hills, down hills.
It's crazy.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
I've got a manifold that has 11 25 millimeter poly pipes coming up into it
wow.
to move the water around, but then trying to create the zones and have robust solenoids that can cope with all the different types of weather is proving to be a little bit trickier. Luckily, I've got a friend who's a landscaper, and he's taking me along that. And he's, he basically rolls his eyes at me and says, "Well, it's not going to work with those. You need those, you idiot."
Yeah.
So he's trying to teach me how to do this in a robust way that will last, because you can't have it fail during fire season, or because that's the whole point of the fire system, is to protect us. So it's got to be bulletproof, and then I've got to make sure the HA doesn't fall over as well. So it's an interesting project. It's probably going to take me another 12 months to.
So with the fire, is the idea from a fire protection perspective? Because I'm guessing you're concerned about like forest fires or bushfires, that kind of thing. So the idea, I'm guessing, is just fire up irrigation everywhere and keep the land wet.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's what you're using that water for.
Yeah.
And at this point, for that, I mean, you can use gray water or whatever, right? It doesn't have to be, proper, fresh, nice,
Well, I don't know, Scott. Are you connected to the mains where you are, or is it all tank water?
We have what they call a trickle feed, which is as it sounds. It's like so it's not mains pressure. It's gravity fed, I assume, from somewhere. I haven't switched it on in the last 3 years, so we're purely off tanks. And you're right, Rahan. Unfortunately, one of the reasons we moved to Queensland is because we got burnt out in the Black Summer bushfires in Victoria, and the
sorry to hear.
It's fine. We're still here to talk about it. And that's all that matters. But one house burnt down and the other one didn't, and the one that didn't was because I ran the sprinklers until the tanks were empty, and it was like a swamp. It was squidgy and wet and humid, and I didn't realise I'm now much more experienced in all things disaster resilience, but that bubble of humidity was great because we managed to get our stock, like our goats and dogs and cats and whatnot, off the property, but we had chickens and ducks that we couldn't. There was 60 of them. We couldn't catch them. And that little bubble of humidity in that wet area saved them and saved the house. And what was a real eye-opener for me afterwards was, because everything had been burnt black around us, all the native birds and little possums and things all came to that little green oasis for the next several weeks until stuff grew back. So I'm very keen on the sprinkler system, and it is pretty simple. It's a great big pump with 10 impact sprinklers that just go around 360 degrees and dump a whole lot of water everywhere. And this is, but again, going back to our automation, the next thing I'm trying to work out now, and there are some commercial products that are available, is wireless smoke detectors that I can actually put out. So we've got 15 acres of bush, 5 of which we own. I want to put sensors out there. Unfortunately, I've got what they call anosmia, which means I can't smell. I have no sense of smell at all.
Oh, interesting.
So I can't smell smoke. I want to know when there's smoke. So I'm,
that's a problem.
Again, trying to find something that'll integrate with HA that I could preferably solar power and actually put out in the landscape as a heads up and a warning system. And I know it sounds a bit apocalyptic, but hey, it's going to be an interesting project, and it's going to be a cool thing to build. And it's going to talk to Home Assistant, so I can make a dashboard. It's going to be awesome. So it's just a matter of coming to grips with that and trying to take yet another project,
Like, how are you dealing with, like having such a vast property and the radio frequencies? Like, are you using anything like LoRa to communicate over a long distance, or if you're fortunate enough that you got like, Ethernet runs out to remote places where you can run Zigbee radios?
I've basically PoE at the moment is my savior. I'd love to use LoRa, and I've been tinkering with LoRa. It's still it seems to be quite a costly solution still, and with the different radio standards and so forth, a lot of the stuff that you can buy here in Australia, I think is still a little overpriced. But I'm interested to see what Shelly do with their wannabe LoRa. I mean, it's not LoRa, but it's LoRa-like. It's long range. Yeah, I'd be super duper interested in what integrations could be created and what devices we could cook up that use the LoRa standard. It always comes back to that low power being a problem.
Yeah,
we need to be
exactly right.
able to power it. And I've been searching for months, and there are some commercial things out there for, even if it's just powering an ESP32 by solar in a robust way. That might even get me across the line for a lot of this stuff. Because being a typical techie, I've got external access points. You can get Wi-Fi every square inch of that property. So,
Well, problem with Wi-Fi is taxing power-wise, right? Like, so to your point, if you're running it on solar and stuff like that, that becomes a little more hard with wireless, and that's where stuff like LoRa actually is kind of interesting. But check out the MeshTastic project if you haven't already.
Yes. I love MeshTastic. That is so clever.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff going on there, right? Even from a communication perspective for you and your neighbors and all that, right? Not to mention sensors on top of that. But
I looked at it for bushfire resilience, because one of the biggest problems we had was cell phone towers. Our national infrastructure owners fill up the diesel generator on the tower and then drive away. Along comes a fire and they don't come back and fill it up again. And they even stopped the locals from putting diesel into the generator, and everyone lost everything. So we were looking at MeshTastic as a backup. But I'm trying to be strong, because it's in another rabbit hole that I would disappear down very quickly.
Yeah. And they're not the only ones. There's a couple of other not standards, but like applications that you can apply on top of LoRa, right? MeshTastic is the popular one. That's the easy choice. I'm trying to think of the other ones' names, but I can't even remember them right now. But there's some cool ones. Again, same kind of deal, right? It's just get an ESP with a LoRa radio, throw it on there, and a lot of people are doing, you buy some solar lights for cheap, cut the solar panels out of that, and wire it up to an 18650 battery or whatever it's called, right? And call it a day, right? And that seems to work for a few people. But powering the actual extra sensors on top of that and that kind of stuff, that's where the battery usage starts to dwindle. Right?
It does, and if you, I mean, it's so some of those little Heltec devices and whatnot are just amazing for the cost. They're very slick solutions. I think if I was a little bit better at coding, because I'm quite terrible at coding, you could put your ESPs into deep sleep, and and have a not sample your sensors so frequently to save battery. But I totally agree that with a voltage regulator and a battery charger circuit and one of those dollar store or even the big box store solar spotlight thingies would be perfect. I mean, it's ready to go. You've just got to make sure that you don't fry your hardware. And I may have to dismantle the one that I've got sitting out in the yard now.
Yeah. I've got the case of my a LoRa 32 here from a Heltec, right? Again, obviously for North American frequencies, but it's pretty cool. I mean, it's got LoRa, Wi-Fi, and BLE, right? So provisioning, all of that stuff gets pretty simple. But the big thing is the battery charging. That's what you got to keep on top of.
On top of it. And we are so spoiled. If you look at the standard of the hardware that's coming out these days, and even just Seed Studios and people like that who are just producing amazing stuff. And I've actually had the luxury of having worked in China, in not in electronics, but in actually apparel, and went out and set up some factories and things. And they are the most amazing manufacturers. It's the quality of the stuff is, a lot of people assume it's not great. They have every price point, but the good stuff is really, really good. So it's a great time. Obviously, perhaps not so much a great time in North America at the moment with some of the issues, but it's a great time to be buying cool stuff out of China and tinkering with it, because there's so much really clever technology out there.
Yeah. I mean, it's not as bad in Canada compared to the US, but
I know
yes.
that's why I'm lucky you that you're on that side of the border. So, interesting times.
Well, if you're looking for a chance to upgrade your smart home, you can't go past Zeus. Add Z-Wave long range to your home assistant setup with the Zeus ZST39 USB radio. Their advanced technology operates in dual network mode, combining a reliable mesh system with ultra-fast direct device-to-hub connectivity. And with Z-Wave long-range support, you can get coverage up to 1,300 feet or 400 meters, both indoors and outdoors. Oh, and it's extremely secure with unique DSK QR code scanning, which you can now do directly within Home Assistant. The Z-Wave JS integration in Home Assistant enables seamless compatibility with a range of brands, all working together through the secure, private, and standardized off-cloud protocol. But that's just the start. Zeus offer a range of affordable and innovative devices, including water leak sensors, water valve controllers, smart plugs, scene controllers, and even color paddles. The color paddles for their scene controllers, dimmers, and switches allow the smart devices to blend seamlessly into your home. For the best prices on all Zeus products, head over to thesmartesthouse.com. That's thesmartesthouse.com.
Great segue here, but Z-Wave LR is also seems to be a nice, like almost a sweet spot, right? So you lose a couple of the Z-Wave's typical functionality, like meshing and all of that stuff, but you get the range, right? And it is quite a bit further. I mean, again, now, will you be able to cover 5 acres? Maybe not, right? Depends, I guess, on how and placement and stuff like that, right? So
I'm going to throw a spanner in the works here, and this is a classic Aussie problem. I don't think LR has been enabled for any Aussie USB radios yet.
Yeah, I don't think they have, unfortunately, because of the
I think it's Europe and US first.
But you're right. And
in time,
give me the sales pitch, guys, because I've just started tinkering with Zigbee, which I find is fabulous. And the little coordinator that I bought is just a brilliant piece of kit. The PoE coordinator. It's so bulletproof. Yeah. It's just amazing. But why should I go Zigbee? What can I do?
What should go Z-Wave, do you mean? Like
Z-Wave, sorry, Z-Wave.
Yeah.
Not Z-Wave.
So, well, I prefer Z-Wave because, Aussies, right? And everyone's Canadian. So I think
mix it up.
For me, Zigbee has conflicts with the 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi band, right? So you do need to be conscious of what channel of Zigbee you're using and what Wi-Fi bands you're using. Scott, in your circumstance, you probably don't have neighbors' Wi-Fi's to contend with. Whereas if you're in an apartment complex or in the inner city, you can't control what Wi-Fi channels your neighbors are using. So there is the possibility that your Zigbee devices could get a bit restricted. Zigbee, I think, how do you describe Zigbee, Rohan? It's an open protocol with open interpretation, I think is
correct.
The way you describe it. So
correct. And that's how I describe all open protocols, right? It's open to interpretation.
Yeah. So, just because you bought the Philips Hue, Philips Hue is actually pretty good, but just because you bought a Zigbee light bulb doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to control it with this Zigbee controller or this Zigbee ecosystem, right? Every manufacturer has their slight nuances to it. Whereas with Z-Wave, it has a standard body where each device class must conform to a certain protocol so that it is interoperable. It doesn't matter if you're dealing with brand A and brand B. If they're alike, they have to act within the same way, and that way means a controller from brand C can control both of those light bulbs. It doesn't care what brand has manufactured the light bulb. To an extent, there are there are nuances everywhere, but for the most part, that is the way the Z-Wave standard works. That's why I prefer it. I can switch out from an AOTech dimmer to a Fabaro dimmer. I know that my stick is generally going to be compatible with it. And the long range support that is coming, which is within the last 12, 24 months, does look pretty exciting. A lot of people are complaining that, Z-Wave being a mesh system, sometimes the meshing doesn't work too well across branded products, but now that you can go to a star system with some pretty impressive range, like I think it's kilometers of range, or maybe up to a kilometer of range. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. Like I would like to get that in Australia.
Yeah, that sounds fabulous. Especially, I think with the AO Tech, they've got a dual band stick now as well that'll do both. So I might have to move Zigbee to the shed and upgrade to a Z-Wave Zigbee for the house, I think.
The only problem with Z-Wave, especially in Australia, is the price. Like you do, because of the licensing and all that, you do have to pay. Like you could get a Zigbee light bulb for, a couple of dollars, right? Like, $10. It's the equivalent one of Z-Wave, might be $30, $40. So there is a premium that you have to pay for.
And it is a significant premium, but it's a trade-off, right? And it's kind of what you were saying, Scott, earlier about you're at that point in your life where you kind of want stuff to just work, and you don't want to tinker, you don't want to fix, you don't want to do all that stuff. Set it up, and it's there, right? And to me, that's what Z-Wave, Z-Wave, whatever you want to call it, that's what it brings in, right? So I think there's, you're trading that reliability and consistency for that. And even Matter, I'm seeing at least the way that it's run by the same folks that Zigbee is built by, right? So the CSA, it used to be called the Zigbee Alliance. Now they're renamed with Matter. They're renamed it to Connectivity Standards Alliance, I believe, or CSA. So it's still, again, it's still open and open to interpretation, so on and so forth, from the device manufacturer. Whereas this, you kind of get a little more quality, and there's only, again, it's good and bad, but there's only two vendors that really build all the that build the chipsets for it, right? It used to be just one, so it used to be just Silicon Labs. Now there's another company called Trident, I think, if I remember correctly, and we actually spoke to a couple of those folks. I don't think we did in a proper interview or anything like that, but there was a at CES we did get the chance to hear a little bit from them and shake hands and kiss babies kind of thing, right? But it sounds like they're doing some stuff on that front as well, right? So, and Z-Wave's aligning more around that alliance type of mechanism, where before it was just centrally controlled by everything, right? So Z-Wave Alliance exists. They have a 404 president, and so on and so forth, and Paulus is part of that board as well, from what I understand on the Home Assistant front. But all that to be said, that hopefully this means that there's going to be a wider variety of stuff to choose from, like wider variety of sensors and all of those kind of things. I know, again, we had an episode with Zeus, right, with Agnes, talking about a lot of that stuff, and obviously they're sponsoring this episode as well. But the point is, there's some value to that protocol, right? The trade-off is cost, but what you get is security and consistency, right, which eventually drives quality. So that's my very long rant about.
I think you're right. And it's funny you mentioned Zeus, because one of the things I was really impressed with, and one thing I constantly moan about, is the lack of a heavy-duty switch. And I see so many people frying hardware, trying to switch water pumps, inductive loads, and so on and so forth. And Zeus have got a pretty robust heavy-duty switch. So that in itself is probably a good enough reason for me to go across to that protocol. Unfortunately not type certified in Australia, but depending on how you read the regulations, as an electrician, you can self-certify some things, believe it or not. If you're willing to take the rate, then you've got to take the risk. But
sure,
I think there's a huge market out there for, if someone basically came up with if you got a Shelly and a contactor and smudged them together so it could switch 20 amps at 240 volts and be robust, I'd buy about 10 of them, because I'd put them on all my pumps and so forth. Yep. Especially if I had power monitoring, even better, because currently I've got CTs going to Shelly's on all the pumps, so I can tell whether the pumps are going or not. It's a pretty rough and ready bush mechanic type version of power monitoring, whereas if someone could flog me one for $100 a pop that switch 20 amps. I'd literally buy 6 of them overnight. Yeah.
Well, this is perfect because this is one of the luxuries I get as being the host of this podcast, and you being Aussie and an electrician. I can query some Aussie specific questions, and I want to know how you're doing Aussie power monitoring. There's many an option out there. A lot of people, just the quality. There's of some products can be an issue. I've seen on Facebook reviews. I'm personally using a mix of some Zigbee smart switches that have power monitoring, but mostly Z-Wave things. But all for the home, right? Like the dishwasher, washing machine. I'd like to get into being able to power monitor some of the heavier things in my house. For example, we've just got electric climate control, so I'd like to be able to get a alert on that. But that's 32 amps, I believe, at the breaker. So that puts out anything commercial that I can just buy off from a local big box store. What's your go-to for monitoring devices around your home? What would you recommend?
I personally use Shelly. So the PMs are very robust. My whole shed is completely Shelly controlled. There are no cables. Well, I've run cables, but all of the switches are basically just sending a Wi-Fi signal, and then Shelly switches them all. And the PMs monitor all of the power in the shed on all 3 phases. Then we've got another one in the house, which is monitoring it's a single phase installation in the home, but it also does the induction cooktop, so that when the induction's on, I can tell the induction's on, and then my LED strip changes color to remind me that the induction's still on.
Oh, nice.
Under the kitchen counter, geeky things. Very, very robust for the cost. I mean, there are other really good products out there as well, but not like the Shelly is a doddle to integrate with HA, and it just works straight away. And I think that's the main selling point, is that integration is so robust and so easy to do. You will need a licensed electrician to install them. The Shellys are great because they're a DIN rail mount, so I've literally just got them mounted in the switchboards, and I've never had any trouble with them. My only criticism is the CTs are really easy to put around the wrong way because they're not very well labelled. They've just got a little arrow on them, so you may find yourself wondering why you're using negative power and you have to go in and switch the CTs. And for anyone who's perhaps going to experiment, it's very important not to open CTs on a live circuit. It will break your equipment, and it can induce some very high voltages. So make sure it's switched off when you're adding and removing current transformers to things. It's super important. I recommend doing it because it opens up all these opportunities. So like we're in the throes of going out to buy solar for the home. Our previous property had solar. And of course, obviously in Australia, the concept of what they used to call a feed-in tariff, when you could export solar to the grid and get paid some money, is now a thing of the past. It's pretty much zero in most cases, and there's a fairly strong rumours doing the rounds of the solar industry that they're actually going to start charging us to export. So it'll cost you money to put electricity back in the grid. So I've got to get this home to the point where I heat things up, pump things around as much as humanly possible during the day when I've got solar. So having a really good overview of what my power consumption is and making the most of using that up during the day will become critical. So even simple stuff, I just use the TP-Link tapos on GPOs. I mean, they're a cheap and cheerful solution. They integrate pretty well, for the money. The IKEA little outlets, if you can get them, because they're unobtainium most of the time, but they're little power monitoring outlets. They're not a great form factor, but they work a treat for just tracking your power.
IKEA has some.
Yeah. Then if you're in IKEA and they've got them, just take all of them. Because I'm sure someone's running a black market IKEA somewhere.
They must be.
They disappear overnight, those things.
100%.
So, and they, again, a really good way of getting your foot in the door with automation is just to use those power monitoring outlets and start looking at your power consumption. And the ghost loads, it's surprising some things that sit there that you don't. I haven't switched on our television for 3 months because I just don't watch TV much anymore. So I unplugged it because it was sitting there burbling away using about 450 milliamps of electricity for nothing.
Yep.
So
just waiting for you to turn it on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's I think the partner factor is important there as well, because it's, yes, you're geeking out. Yeah, yes, you can automate all the things, but you can also say, hey, look, I've reduced our electricity bill a little bit. Even monitoring, like I monitor the washing machine and the dryer because I can, and because there's that lovely little integration from Hacks that you can pop on HA. It works a treat, and I don't forget to put the washing out. Useful, perhaps, fun, definitely. But it's at least I'm attempting to make it something useful for the other people who live in the home as well. So that's
Yeah.
You mentioned you use a lot of Shelly devices. Shelly have a few protocols now. Are you using them on Wi-Fi primarily?
Yeah. Just from a legacy point of view, because I started out with Wi-Fi. I'm pretty lucky that I'm all ubiquity. So for a home, like for a house, we've got a ridiculous level of network infrastructure. I've actually got a proper cabinet with multiple,
Nice.
all Cisco switches in the core. I've actually got fiber between my switches in the house.
Ooh,
nice.
Why? Because I could.
Yeah, why not?
Basically, and then all ubiquity UFOs for the infrastructure, and talking back to Zigbee, because I've got a Dream Machine as my router, or as the brains behind it all. It was trivial for me to then spread the channels across Wi-Fi to give room for Zigbee, because you just went, no. It actually complained and said, hey, your AP spread isn't good enough. If you want to fix this. And I went, yes, please, click, click, click. And it was done. So again, a big investment up front, but for pretty bulletproof technology. And I could say the same about Grandstream as well. If you're not concerned about it, I mean, these products are all made in certain countries anyway, but some people have concerns about where they come from. But the Grandstream is also an impressive product set, and they're very much trying to basically be the next Ubiquity, I suppose. Whether or not I'd get a Ubiquity doorbell or anything, no, of course not, because I live in the country. There's no one rings the door anyway.
It's knocking on your door.
Yes, all right. There's be koalas or something like that. But as far as and I'm not. I don't know if you guys obviously listen to other podcasts, but I'm definitely not going to buy one of their AI horns in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently not much job. So as much as I'm tempted by the whole thing, so it's That's why I went to Zigbee to suss out how it would interact with the 2.4, and I've basically isolated that. It's called the network's an IoT network. It only runs on 2.4. It doesn't broadcast at all on 5 gig to keep life simple. But I'm very interested to try the Z-Wave and see how that integrates on top of it. And plus, you can never have too many new things, really. Yeah, so
that's right.
Now, I do want to get into some fun stuff. So you've got a lot of animals on your property. What sort of automations have you got around the animals?
This is what I'm working on at the moment, is the chicken automation. My favorite one, which is a very benign automation, and you'll think I'm a lunatic, is my fox automation. So every single spotlight on every building on this property, including a little garden shed that's about 300 meters that way or 30 meters that way, I've got one button. It's a fox button, and it turns all of them on all at once. It's like Luna Park. It lights the place up, because that's a really good way of deterring foxes. And we have lost chickens to foxes in the recent months, unfortunately.
Right.
So even though it sounded really easy, it's like it's just a whole bunch of lights but they're in sheds and some in the house, and some are automated, some are not. So then I have to go and Shelly everything.
Right.
It's been super duper because it actually saves the lives of my chickens. Now
Yeah.
I'm working on the chicken
Yeah.
door automation. So, because it's
Yes.
can I automate the opening and closing of said chicken door? Or if not, can I at least have a reminder to close the door? Being the high tech sort of person that I am, the current system is a pulley in a tree with a very long piece of
Ooh.
cord that goes through the pulley and down to the chook door, and I literally close it by hand. Because I built an
That's awesome.
electronic solar powered door opener and closer using the mechanism from a car aerial, the winder.
Yep.
Completely unreliable and didn't work. So I went back to the manual. So my next step is to say, okay, how can Home Assistant now take over the chickens and become the chicken overlord?
So if you're just doing a pulley, I'm guessing you'd do something like a roller blind motor that you could get, and then just wind it. Say that's closed, wind it the other way. I don't know how you actually close the door if it's just a string, but that could be an
Well,
option.
I think it was there was a good Acquiro. I think it was a little motor that looked good. Probably is a weatherproof. It's got to be something weatherproof. So
Yeah.
I'm just, and we've mentioned this already. I'm basically going down the YouTube rabbit hole of watching what other people out there have done with Home Assistant to automate things
The
like
best way
door.
to do
There's
it.
some really clever ones. There was one gentleman who I think had some mobility issues, and he actually had an automatic door opener and closer on his
Yep.
apartment door. I'm
Yeah,
thinking,
that's right.
wow, maybe even something like that. Yeah, just open the door. So it'll depend what AliExpress has got that I can find.
Yeah. Wait for the
Implement.
Singles Day sale in November and see what
Oh yeah,
AliExpress throws at
buy
you.
Well,
more
you, you,
stuff.
you might. I was going to say you might be able to get like even on like Marketplace or if you just go to some liquidation people, like the people that liquidate like companies that shut down and stuff like that. Because again, a lot of places have accessibility rules where you have to have a automatic door for just for like the little accessibility button, right? Which opens a door. I mean, if you can get those for pennies on the dollar used, I mean, I don't know if you necessarily care that it has to be brand new. If it
No,
works, it
no, of course
works,
not.
right?
I love recycling. The other thing I'm building for the chickens, and it's not very exciting, that's it there, is ESP32 sound detector. I've got three of them. It's powering them again is the problem. I'm actually thinking of running a Cat 6. I've got some overhead Cat 6. It's got catenary built into it, perfect for overhead runs, because I want to detect unusual noises at night while they're asleep, because that's a good indication that there's a predator if there's a lot of
Yeah.
noise. So I've got to see if I can get this to talk to Home Assistant. And this is potentially the only use case I can think of for AI, is to sense unusual increases in noise at unusual hours in the chicken house, and to turn on the fox lights, so illuminate everything, and to also warn me through an announcement on one of the the speakers or however I decide to do it. So that's the next high tech thing, is to spy on the chickens through audio. Basically,
So right
Amazing.
now you've got the Fox button, like hit a button, all the spotlights turn on. Is that button automated in any way that it would, like, if the house thinks there's a fox somewhere to turn on those lights, or is that phase two?
that's phase. That's part of this project here. This phase two, and the other thing I've ordered some IKEA Zigbee buttons. So I'm literally going to make some buttons, put a picture of a fox on them, and just put them around the place. So that if you hit that button, the Vox lights come on. So I'd really love for that to be automated. I think that would be fun if it detects an unusual. So it's all about looking at the patterns. So if there's it's a little bit like cybersecurity. Someone's logging in suddenly from a country you're not expecting them. There's a problem. So if I'm hearing noises that I'm not expecting at a time when it should be really quiet out in the countryside, I want that to then trigger an automation that would turn on those lights, alert me, and potentially, I don't know, if we ever got really sophisticated, maybe make a noise or something to try and deter predators. But that's That's the future state when my brain comes up with a better idea.
My only concern is that but by the time you get to the noise stage, it may be too late, right? Like the fox is already in the hen house at that stage, especially at night. Have you considered something like cameras with, once again, like Frigate or something,
To
or even
identify.
like I've even just got like yesterday, the day before recording, I installed a Reolink camera up in one in front of my house. And last night it detected a possum. We get a lot of possums where I live. And so I could see on the timeline, animal detected. It detected there was an animal. And I was like, oh, what's 2 a.m.? What's an animal there? And it was a possum, running across. Now, it won't detect, you won't be able to tell the difference between a fox and a possum. But if you angle a camera in the right location, and Reolink have a great integration with Home Assistant, you could, run animal detected on this camera at 2 a.m. in the morning. Let's turn the fox lights on.
That'd be perfect. And I'd be really interested to fill in your experience because I've not had a lot of luck with Reolink, and
Interesting.
mainly because a lot of them were the solar ones, which are terrible, basically.
Well, this is it, yeah. But you're running
Right.
Ethernet, right? Like
I
these
can
cameras I've just put in
PoE
a
that,
PoE.
and I've got Frigate.
Yep.
That I'd be interested to know. Send me an email one day telling me which camera you've got.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be ideal. I've nearly everything's high vision, which is okay, or high look.
Sure.
But yeah, that would probably be the gold standard. If I could get a camera out to there, I can spy on the chickens and do some movement detection. I could even get more sophisticated and actually, because the attack vector, so to speak, is pretty predictable as to where the predators would come from. I could probably do 2 and actually do perimeter monitoring.
Exactly. And you could, then that time, like you could arm those, thresholds, right? Like if an animal or there's something crosses this beam or a virtual beam in a camera, right? Okay, something's moved across here that's moving into the zone it shouldn't be in. Let's turn on the fox lights. Even if it's a false positive, it's probably better to turn on the lights than,
Yeah.
at the risk of, not working.
Do you find that when all the lights go on, because you said it kind of blankets the property, right, with the lights, do you find that, like, in the middle of the night, is that something that'll wake you up, or do you have enough, like, curtains and whatever, or do you want to be woken up? Like, how does that work from?
It's actually no, it wouldn't wake us up. The house is what they call a Queenslander. It's a style of building they have here in Queensland. And so it was built in 1920. So it's very tall ceilings, small windows, and because it's timber, it's literally one layer of timber. There's not even a gap, So we've got curtains on everything to keep the place cool and warm. So we're pretty good on the light side. But I would love for one of the little UFO-shaped talking devices that we have to gently whisper at me if I could get that detection to work. That would be fabulous. I mean, you could then, wow, you could go crazy. I could set up some hoses with some solenoids.
Right.
And if there's a
Absolutely,
predator
you could.
detected, I could squirt them with water.
Yep.
Then off we go down the automation bunny hole.
Yes.
Then I
Yeah.
could get a drone.
Well, exactly right. Like fire up a drone and to circle the perimeter of the property and
that would
land.
be so awesome. And I'm sure someone's done it. I'm sure. I'm going to
Just
have to go and have a look
have the
now.
drones are chasing around the fox and.
Well, when we're at CES, we saw Alarm. What was
Yeah.
it? Alarm.com, Brian? They had,
Alarm.com.
as part of their thing, they had a drone that you could, as an add-on to your property, you could, if the alarm was detected, it would launch a drone at your property, and using AI, follow the person on your property.
That's awesome. That's
and,
so clever.
Talk to them.
That's so geeky.
Yeah.
That's just the best thing ever. And you can buy little cheap drones for like $30 now, so you could literally just throw them at them.
Exactly.
And poor chickens, all their feathers will fall out because of all the lights flashing and the drones circling, and
the stress.
They'll be like, "Oh my god, what's he doing?" It's
Yeah.
I love that. That's a great idea.
They're gonna think that the drone's a predator now.
It's hilarious the trouble you go to if you pets. But anyway, I think it's one of the great joys of this hobby is when you can actually do something that's sort of cool from a technical point of view. You've had to think about it, you've had to research it, you've got to find the right devices and procure them and do all the things. But then to actually have a really good, quite useful real world use case for it, where it does something like my traffic light, not so much. I mean, I could just literally remember which day to put the pin out. But where's the fun in that?
Put a calendar event in your phone.
Exactly.
I get it. I've done the same thing. I'm using AI to tell me which bin to put out, but the AI still gets it wrong. But I want it to tell it to me in a nice way, right? Not just a light.
It's a great use. Yeah.
It's like for me, it makes me laugh. But I want to monitor my letterbox like every other person who does home automation in the whole planet seems to want to do.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yet, where's the manufacturer? This is the thing I don't get. And these wonderful companies like Zeus and whatnot, who are super clever, make a letterbox monitor, guys. Like it's going to be a dry contact and a battery and some sort of technology, and absolutely everybody on the whole planet is going to buy one or two.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is. We say that in theory, but I think Ring actually do have that product, if I'm correct. But it's only in America, of course. I think it's Ring, but yeah, there is a company, like, it was just random, like it was a doorbell company that sort of has a letterbox monitor as well.
Wow, they have a Ring mailbox sensor. Yeah, you're right.
It's even just a dry contact sensor that's good quality and low power. I can think of 50 different applications where you could use it on the gates to see if the gates are open, or my roller doors, the letterbox.
As long as it's weatherproof,
Yep.
and it just doesn't need much power, and it has the ability for long range communication back to base. Especially in your situation,
amazing.
I'm guessing your letterbox isn't outside your house; it's probably down the driveway.
It's 100 meters away.
Yeah.
Yes, I can't even see it from the house, so it's you have to
No wonder you want to automate
wander down there and check it every couple of days. So I think there is so much, and we talk so much now about AI and HA, very much investing in AI and integration and all this really clever stuff. But I sometimes feel like we're boiling the ocean a little bit when, if you could manufacture half a dozen robust, low power, I don't know, potentially solar powered or whatever sensors, you would sell a squillion of them. Absolutely squillions. And you look at the Apollo's new multi-sensor. I mean, that's PoE. That's super smart. I mean, I so want one of those. I just look at the price going, oh man, that hurts. It's $150. But I'm still really tempted. I mean, there's some cool things that people are coming up with, and I'm excited to see what the next 12 months or even the rest of this year is going to look like. And you guys have the best idea, having gone to CES. I mean, that's just heaven. I love trade shows.
Definitely the AI was the thing, right, at CES. Like, that was the takeaway. AI was just AI and palm reading locks. Everyone wanted to show us their palm reading locks.
That's funny as well.
Yeah.
And you're both developers, so is it just me, or is this AI thing just the current snake oil? I mean, I understand, like, I love ChatGPT. I use Grok for my YAML because it's really good at YAML. But as far as putting it in charge of my fridge, I'm not so keen. It's almost, I can't see the use cases for 99% of what people are talking about. The frigate and pattern recognition, things like that, makes perfect sense. Where this is, but broadly, do I want it in charge of my robot vacuum cleaner? No, thank you. I'm not convinced.
I guess you've got to consider it is still fresh technology, right? Like, when the iPhone first came out, the capabilities that the iPhone could do today, you just wouldn't be able to imagine. Like, smartphones we'd have folding smartphones and have all that information in our pockets, right? I think it will be a very transformative technology, and it's already done so much in the 2 years it's been here. So I think it is certainly a watch this space. As a developer, I think you would need to be. I think it's very important to keep your finger on the pulse here. I think that prompt engineering and being able to explain to AI what you want to happen is going to be very important. And I think that's already becoming apparent now, right? Like a lot of people that are going, oh, just get AI to do it. And you start doing it and you go, oh, actually, it's not doing it the right way. There's actually a bit of, it's going to take a little bit of human, knowledge and intelligence to get AI to give us back what we're expecting. So, yeah, I think it's definitely a watch this space.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating, and I agree with you. The art of the prompt is my favorite thing is when you actually ask the AI to say, right, what's the best way to prompt you?
Yes,
And it's surprising
exactly.
results,
Yeah. Well, but I think even like for certain things, like the chicken automations or the chicken, whatever you want to call it. Like if there's like you take that, take a screenshot. Hey, listen, there's something going on here. Screenshot, send that to it, and maybe something like, hey, is there something you see that could put my chickens at risk here, right? And it could detect, hey, there's, I don't know, like there's a fox versus there's, I don't know, some other animal that's not harmful
Awesome,
to
or
chickens, right? Right, a
a
possum,
mouse.
something like that, right? That don't. Right. So whereas it can go in and say, okay, it's not an all or nothing, or it might be a little more intelligent around, hey, what is this thing? And again, it's been trained on, I don't know, like a bajillion pictures of what a fox looks like or whatever, and it can kind of correlate that, right? Again, is it going to be 100% accurate? To Phil's point, no. I think it's still very early, but that might still be pretty interesting to see what it can do, right? And say, okay, based on this is what it's seeing, and then turn on the lights based on if it thinks with a reasonable amount of confidence that it is what it thinks it is.
And I think that will mature once we can run LLMs at home. So it's the decoupling from the cloud for me that is the thing, because if I lose my internet connection, then I lose my AI overlord as well. But I think as that
Yeah.
becomes commoditized, and as you both said, there are some smart people making some really smart things. If you could buy a box that's a AI box and just plug it in, it's like a toaster, and it's your local language model, then we're going to see a paradigm shift as everything's going to go out the window and it'll all change really quickly.
I don't think that's
Be
very far away.
Yeah.
Like,
pretty
'cause you can
exciting when
already
it
run,
happens.
you can already run LLMs locally now. You just
Yeah.
need the good hardware, right? Once we get that, once the LLMs, evolve
Right.
a bit and don't need as much hardware or get, more, yeah, efficient, I think, yeah, that will be a
Yeah,
possibility, certainly.
that would be really cool to have HA just talking to your local AI, and
Yeah.
imagine the potential for us as home automators, if that's a word, to do that pattern recognition. So, okay, oh, hey, this PowerPoint's switched on at an unusual time. It doesn't usually come on at this time of day. Or, hey, that pump's running in the afternoon, but I know that Scott's not home because I can see that he's at work based on the presence. That's weird. What? And then to do some decision making and maybe say, okay, well, I'm just going to switch that off just to be safe. And that gets really exciting because you're going beyond your Boolean if this then that, and it's actually saying, well, just take a bit of a guess and make the decision you think is best, and using the LLMs or the AI to do that. That's cool stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the next, I mean, I don't know, couple of years are going to be definitely interesting, but I think even over the next, like, let's call it 10 years or something like that, as stuff becomes very commodity, right? Then I think that's where it's going to be. I think it's going to be a lot more accessible, right? Right now, it's still in that early adopters kind of phase, at least for the local part, right? Even actually to some extent, even like ChatGPT, as much as we think it's super popular, like I haven't asked them, but I don't know if my parents know it even exists or stuff like that, right? Like it's not it's in the masses, but not across every demographic or what have you, right? So I don't know, might be some cool things there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great for us because home automation is just going to get more and more interesting and more cool things to tinker with, which is fabulous.
Yep, and more dynamic, right? So it's which is cool. Now, one thing again, we talked about this, and I think it was Mark on Twitter that said, "Hey, like give us, get somebody who's an empty nester on, and get somebody who's, I don't." Cool, great that you guys have kids, but I don't. I want to hear more about automations and those kind of things that don't involve children and so on. Well, I'd love to hear from you, Scott. One, how have your automations evolved? But two, describe some of those that you think are like that you would classify as a specifically empty nester kind of automation, if you have any.
I do. My favorites are the simplest ones, to be honest, and that's funny, and I think that's just an age thing. That automated, so motion sensing and lights. So if I get up in the wee small hours to go out and see what the cats have knocked over or whatever, or if I have to go to the bathroom or what have you, we have these beautiful 40% slow ramp ups on my lights. It's nice and dim. I can see where I'm going. It waits 5 or 6 minutes and it ramps back down again. Best thing ever. Simplest. I mean, I literally could have put a PIR and a spotlight up to do it. But just having that lovely control, the LED strip in the kitchen comes on at 20%. If I go in there, silly, simple, but for personal benefit, it's the business. It's fantastic. Monitoring, again, things, the automations that look after the washing machine and dryer, they're fabulous if you're busy. Again, just trying to make life a little simpler. My wife works full time, I work full time, so you don't want to spend your whole time doing laundry and that sort of thing. So the more I can squeeze out of automation for those things, the better. The vacuum cleaner is probably my other favorite because we've got 2 cats. Mm-hmm. And one of them is very, very fluffy. And as a result, there is cat hair everywhere, all of the time.
Yep.
Right.
So
I can imagine.
I've got an automation that I launched from my desk at work. So I work about 60, I think it's 50 odd kilometers away. Yeah, it's about a 45-minute drive for me to commute. But I'll get there and I'll think, and it waits until about 9 o'clock because then the cats have woken up and have moved away from there, and it'll fire up the robot vacuum cleaner, send it out to vacuum up all the cat hair, and then put it back to bed again. Again, the simplest thing, but I lashed out. I think I paid $169 for my vacuum cleaner. We're talking like the cheapest Chuya robot vac that exists.
$169 on a robot vacuum cleaner that is integrated into Home Assistant. I don't believe you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
And it's brilliant. It's cat hair sorted.
And it doesn't get clogged on the cat hair. Where did you find this vacuum cleaner? Was it secondhand?
No, it was on that large e-commerce site that everyone knows and loves. And I think it's still on there. So I actually bought my son one as well.
I'm surprised.
And I'm trying to work out a way now of mounting a camera on it, so I can actually observe the cats as I vacuum up their cat fur. But that's a future project.
Yeah.
So it's been funny. So the biggest benefit for the household have been those really simple things, whereas I like geeking out with the media players and pumps moving water around and that sort of thing. And I also monitor our broadband through HA, which has been really good because my wife needs broadband to work, so I can get a heads up if there's an issue with the internet service, and I can notify myself. So it's just endless use cases. Home Assistant is just so amazing for what it is, and I'm constantly amazed at the team behind it. I love watching their videos and hear the new things that they're developing. Sometimes I think, that's all very nice. It's really not for me. I don't use all of the functionality, but things like hacks. I mean, where would we be without hacks? I mean, there's so much cool stuff on there, and I'm always amazed by people like you guys who are developers, and just how damn clever it all is, that you can just sit down and go and create these amazing pieces of code that do such cool stuff. So I'm eternally thankful to the open source community and to HA's community just for making something very enjoyable to be involved with. I think it's just good fun.
Yeah, it is the community of Home Assistant is amazing, right? Like everyone is just happy to share and contribute back, and we all get better together, right? We all have fun together, and I think that's really special in this community.
Yeah. I was a bit saddened that we didn't have a meetup anywhere in Australia. I think we need to work on that for next year.
Absolutely. I do want to finish on another fun one that you mentioned. Can you tell me about your pinball machine, please?
Yeah, I've got a bit of a problem with pinball machines. Nine of them at the moment.
9 pinball machines.
Okay. Sounds like a great problem.
Just out there. Ranging, the earliest one I got is a 65, electromechanical, 1965, through to, I've got a sub problem with Star Trek. So I've got all of the Star Trek pinball machines.
Nice.
So the newest one's about 2013. So they go through electromechanical, solid state, through hole components, surface mount, and the modern Stern stuff. And I'm very interested in seeing how I'm going to implant ESP32s or something similar into them so that I can start controlling my pinball machines through Home Assistant, even if it's just tracking the scores and silly little things like batteries. One of the greatest killers of pinball machines is batteries. People forget to change the batteries, and the alkaline damage on the circuit boards destroys them. And of course, those boards made in the 90s, 80s, they're unobtainium. So even simple little things like having a reminder saying, hey, you got to change the batteries out of the pinball machines. But I'm really interested. And unfortunately, every generation seems to have a different technology, and a lot of the manufacturers have different technology. They're all very closed source. They're very heavily guarded still. Even today, the IP for pinball machines is heavily guarded by the people who own it, even if it's ancient.
Wow, really?
But I am determined that I'm going to somehow or other integrate my machines into HA so that I've got a fully automated pinball parlor, which will probably drive my wife crazy. But
that's cool. So I guess that's another emptiness thing, right? Like you've got some time on your hands. Let's go into like combined hobbies, right? I like pinball machines. I like home automation. Let's do it all together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's lucky because my wife she's way better at playing them than I am. All of the high scores are her. Not me. I like fixing them because they're electronic things. So so it's I've got at least 5 minutes of spare time. I need to develop a new project, which involves things. Awesome. I think it's good, and you don't want to get too set in your ways, and I like to keep my hand in, so to speak, technically, and you do that. You're doing is learning, if that makes sense,
Yes.
So just even if I don't get, like as I showed you earlier, it's probably not going to win any design awards, but it does exactly what it was. It's got PoE, it's got sensors, it's got it can make noises and flash lights, it does all the things. I'm not sure it ever began to show anyone, the finished product, but it was a great little challenge, and I had to work out how to bring it together. So I just keep doing that. So
that's awesome.
Scott, thank you so much. This has been very interesting. Love having a chat with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. It's such a pleasure to meet you, and thank you so much for your time. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
All right, thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you for yours. Yeah.